This brief discussion is one of the Election Rigging Response Act, which the California legislature has passed and which is appearing on our November 4th ballot as Proposition 50. It is very important for citizens to understand what is taking place with this. Many of you have seen in the news that President Trump, along with Governor Abbott of Texas, was successful in getting the Texas legislature to do a redrawing of congressional districts, which is highly unusual before next year's midterm.
During an election, people are represented in different districts, just like we have District 4, District 1, District 3 here in San Diego County. And in Texas, they decided to redraw those districts so that power was concentrated in certain districts, and other districts with, say, majority Black and brown people were split up. So those people who might have had higher representation and citizens in those districts, their voting power was diluted. Because of that, there's going to be an imbalance of congressional power that California has decided that we need to make sure that we stand up against.
The whole goal was to add at least 5 Republican seats to the House of Representatives, because right now the Republicans have no more than a 5 to 6 member majority, and the Democrats are close behind. And when the Democrats get 219 members, the leadership of the House will switch from the Republicans to the Democrats, which means that Hakeem Jeffries, who is now the minority leader, will become the Speaker of the House. And once the House of Representatives is in Democratic control, a number of things that can happen that affect all of us directly. First of all, we notice that during this current crisis, the House has virtually been in recess during a time at which the government is shut down and the American people are suffering. And because the Republicans control the House, then only the Republicans can bring the House back into session, i.e. the Speaker, Mike Johnson. We also see that a Democratic woman has been elected to fill her father's term from the state of Arizona, and that Johnson refuses to convene the House because in doing so he would be forced to swear her in, and she has already promised that she will be the 218th signature needed on a discharge petition under the rules of the House to bring the whole Jeffrey Epstein files forward for a vote. When this happens, the Speaker cannot deny the full body, and it means that the Republicans who are against the Epstein papers being released, that would be a formal record of their vote. So here we switch back to California. Governor Newsom has taken a position that in order to push back against Texas, which is clearly a Republican-led effort, it's no longer about government, that we would have an election response act in California, which would allow the drawing of congressional boundaries to be shifted from the Election Commission, which now has control over that, to the state function, where we can now redraw boundaries and hopefully add 5 Democratic members to the House of Representatives. And I say 5 because in California we have 52 members of Congress, 12 of them are Republicans. If we could add more Democrats, that would reduce the number of Republicans in the House of Representatives and in the state of California, and we would be contributing to trying to regain control of the House, which would then allow Hakeem Jeffries and the Democrats to do things like meet the SNAP shortage and protect health care and all the things that are being discussed by staff members here as they do this podcast. And so boundaries would be redrawn.
These maps would stay in place until new ones are drawn by the Citizens Redistricting Commission after the 2030 census.
Here in San Diego County, we would have a chance to replace Darrell Issa, who is a Republican East County member of Congress. And we know that every congressional seat that we can turn Democratic becomes very important to us. Hence, Prop 50.
It's important to get those seats in the House for Democrats to allow Democratic issues to be voted upon within the Black community and the minority community, and letting our voice be heard. It'll give us equal and fair representation in the House of Representatives, which will then allow us to vote accordingly on how we want healthcare to be used in our system, how we want education, housing, and really issues that matter to us as voters, and really allowing us to get those implemented and really help and serve our community.
I think it's incredibly important for all of us to have a say in how we feel that our communities and our country should run. And I think a vote yes on Prop 50 is essentially a vote for ourselves in saying that we all believe that we should have a say in everything that happens in our communities.
50 will actually affect how minorities are going to be represented politically. So it is very important for us to raise our voice. As a Latino speaker, I think it's also important that we raise our voice and make minority communities heard.
I think like widespread, the Republican Party has a plan for like multiple election cycles to consolidate power. Amongst that plan is obviously policy changes, cutting back healthcare, education, and many other things. And so I think that voting yes on Prop 50 is going to affect the Black populace when it comes to just services for people who are not privileged.
I think that right now there's a lot of information going out. I think it's important for us young folks to really get involved and investigate what really Prop 50 is. I think we need to get more involved and make our voices heard. I've been reading a lot of information. I think it's important for us to understand it before we make and take a decision to make the right one, so it doesn't affect us in the future, because we are the ones who are going to be more affected of what's going on.
I think it matters, especially like to the Black and Brown communities, because it will level the playing field to where we can actually vote upon those issues that are plaguing our community, such as, healthcare, such as education, such as, economic assistance. Studies show that majority of Black and Brown communities use those resources. So the new administration is aiming to wipe those out. And so if these lines aren't redrawn to where it can level that playing field, we might lose the opportunity to have a say and let our voice be heard.
Because there will be people who are possibly elected to the Congress, a percentage of them might not be for those particular rights and things that might be advantageous to people of color, and others who need affordable health care and opportunities in education, voting rights, and things such of that nature.
Hence Prop 50. You must register to vote, and you must vote.
If you look at your voters information guide that our Secretary of State, Shirley Weber, has put together for us, it tells us exactly how the current maps look and the proposed changes. So all you need to do is read your information guide, be informed, and vote.
And there are only two items, one item on the ballot, yes or no. Sign up, vote yes, allow us to make the change. The election districting function will revert back to the Commission on Elections by the year 2030 and after the 2026 midterm.
And it's completely transparent. Everyone is voting on this. It's not something that's being done in a back room somewhere. All of California's voters will be able to vote on this measure.
Which is the reason that we are doing this, so that we increase the opportunities to have more Democratic leadership, which will give control back to the Democrats, which will allow us to check and balance things that are taking place, from the shutting down of the Department of Education to the mishandling of government employees being terminated where there's no such authority for all the things that are being done, from the protection of CDC, from protection of Health and Human Services, from reinstating vaccines to protect all of our citizens at all ages. These things can be safeguarded under a democratically controlled Congress.
I say for Prop 50, we all should get out and vote because every vote matters. If we don't and we end up losing to the opposition, major funding can go away that does not only affect us young adults, it affects children, it affects the elderly, it also affects how different programs are given and different funding is decided for different areas throughout the city. And who wants to grow up in a world where they don't even have a chance before they can make that decision for themselves?
The registration period in terms of going into different places has ended, but one may still vote in California. You may vote on election day by going into a polling site, presenting an ID, and getting a ballot, which will be sealed, and it's called a provisional ballot. And that provisional ballot would be counted after the other ballots are counted in the general election, which takes place on November 4th. This is why every vote is important. So there's no such thing as not being.
And in that, right, it's very important that we understand Prop 50 all the way down to its bottom detail, and we vote according to how we want our futures to be.